All right, we'll start the final Mamer in the Parshas Matos, the seventh Mamer. This is the Biur on the previous Mamer of Echolzu. Biur Inyan Echolzu Me'itchem, explaining the idea of Echolzu Me'itchem, the way the Pasuk puts it. Over there, the Pasuk is talking about that they should get ready, the people, to war against Midian. So the way the pasuk says, "Heichotzu me'itchem," Heichotzu seems to speak to all of them. Heichotzu, you should all Heichotzu, but it should be Yeichotzu miboyilei, from amongst you, because you only had elef lamata. There were 1,000 people for each tribe, so only part of them. It's not. So why did they all need to Heichotzu? The me'itchem mashma. Because the pasuk says "Echolzu me'itchem," so me'itchem mashma v'lo kulchem, not you all, but ve'echolzu mashma kulchem. That is mashma you all, because the pasuk says "Vaydaber Moshe lahom leimer echolzu." Moshe is saying to the people, so he's saying to all of them. So if he's saying to all of them, "Echolzu," means they should all get ready. But at the end, it was only some of them, so you should say "Yecholzu me'itchem." Idea is like this. To understand what is the idea of Midian, you have to first introduce the 7 nations. What is the 7 nations? Achiti, Aknani, Achiti, Chulu. Shenemar Bohem, with regards to them, it says, Ki eskol hata so basically, all the nations, they all are abominations. They are all done, all these abominations, which means they're all negative. What is Midian? And then you have the Shiva Momen. Sheheim Shiurei. What is the 7 Amomim come? It says Shehem Shiyurei Hazayim Melochim de Toyu. They are the leftovers of the 7 kings of Toyu. The 7 kings of Toyu, meaning the Ano Emlech was the level of each of the spheres, was in a level of they wanted to be king. Each wanted to be king. Then there was the Shviris Akelim. What means the leftovers from the Zayin Melach? What does the leftovers of them mean? Leftover means the Hainu Hasigim v'Hapsoiles Shenifsharu Achar Habirur. Those are the imperfections and the leftovers that remain after the Birur. So, some of Toyu is Nisbarer in Tikkun in Atzilus. Some of them is left over. The leftover, the Sigid of Soilus, that's the 7 nations. Kamoi, like we say, even Avraham, Sheyotza Mimenu, Avraham, from him comes out Ishmael, which means Avraham was Nizbarer, but left over after the Birur was Ishmael. Shekvar Yotzo Nizbarer. He already went out to be sorted out. The Nifrad Ma'avram, and Yishmael was separated from Avram. The Nasa Sigim B'Klippa, he became in the level of the Sigim and the Klippa. Okay. But he says, the Hainu Lamata Nasa Sigim, Avaloy Lamaila. When we're saying that after the Birur, it becomes Sigim, means the way it is below. In this world becomes the Sigim, but in the spiritual level, over there is no level of Sigim over there and above. The Tzayna Lemer, he explains. Kshenislabsho nishmas Avraham shemechesed Elyon. When the soul of Avraham, comes from, where does the soul of Avraham come from? From Chesed Elyon. That's from the supreme Chesed of Atzilus. when his soul dressed up, his soul that comes from Chesed Elyon, dresses up Lamato, Mimenu, Beguf, and it goes in lower than him, it dresses up in the body. So then from there goes out the level of Sigim. The Fisha Guf, Nilkach Miklipas Nega, because the body has been taken from Klipas Nega. Sheshom Nishar Mashenofal B'Shviras HaKelim. Over there it remains. What fell B'Shviras HaKelim remains there. It's not nistaken. There remains the level of the Guf, and therefore over there is the Klippa. It could be Yotzev Mani Yishmael. Mashenke Mitzad Nishmas Avrom K'Mashelamaylo Ba'Atzilus, as opposed to Nisham Avrom. And over there we don't say there's no left over. There's no Yishmael over there above. There's no clip over there. First was sorted out was Atzilus. What does the mean Atzilus sorted out? The Hainu Shahamufchar Mahanitzutsim, the Kalim the Toihu, that the choicest of the sparks and the Kalim of Toihu, Nichla B'Kedushas Atzilus, they were included in the sanctity of Atzilus, meaning they were elevated. That was the highest part of the sparks that fell down. First, they were Nichla and Kedushas Atzilus. And that which cannot be included in Atzilus, Nase Bria, then became Bria. So it came in Atzilus and Bria to be sorted out. But there is still Ba'akoil B'Sitro D'Kedusha B'chinas Bittel. This is all in the side of Kedusha, which means they were both Bittel. There's two levels in Bittel. There's the Bittel of Atzilus, which is Bittel B'Metzias. There's no existence over there. The Bittel of Bria is Bittel Hayesh. Rak Ba'Atzilus, Hu Bittel Gomer. In Atzilus, it's total Bittel. Hu B'Bria, Hu Yesh Bottle. And the Bria is Yesh Bottle. In Bria, it still remains a Yesh. U'K'moi Shekosu. U'K'moi, like Pasuk says, so what are these armies of the Shemayim that bow to Hashem? That's Bittul Hayesh. Uksiv, because it says Shemayim lo yizaku be'enov, that the Shemayim is not clear in Hashem's eyes, which means even though they're bowing down, it says Tzva Shemayim are bowing to Hashem, but it's still not pure because it's not the real bittul. It's only bittul hayesh. Uksiv. And one pasuk says, so on one hand you have Tzva Shemayim L'chamish Tachavim, and then we say that the Shemayim is not clear. And the same thing is Uksiv. On one hand it says Malachim Yosim Tihila. Hashem praises the Malachim. He praise the Malachim. That's an E of Simon. And in the other one, it says Ukamoi, Davkula Matat. It says they took out Matat, Umachyu Samach Pulsin Denura. They gave him 60 straps of fires. He was punished. Why is it Matat? The Gemara says that he wanted to change over there with the Acher, so there's Gemara Chagiga. So he we see that while the Eibishter says Malachim Yosef Tehilos, but it's still Matat still did things wrong because it's not Bittul B'Metzias, it's only Bittul Hayesh. Behind Lifshena Bittul Kedeboy, because the Bittul is not as it should be. Mashkos Makamacha. Behind Mashkos with the Maschil, Sabes B'nei Yisrael Chulas Karbonei Lachmi. What the song Malachim. So we have Atzilus, which is Bittul B'Metzias. We have Bria, which is Bittul Ayesh, while Malachim Yosef Tilos, and yet there is Machyub Samach Puls in the Nora. Why Tzva Shemaim L'cham Mishtachim, but Shemaim L'Zakabeinu, which means it's not complete. Mezeh Yuvan Eich Shebribu Hishtalshlus Yocheliyis Nase Sigi Mamish. It says that it could be actually Sigim. Because, which means that even because it's not Bittul B'Metzias, it's a Bittul Ayesh, so therefore, as it goes down, as it descends, it becomes mamish, the imperfection, becomes a Sigim, becomes the Klippas. Also, this explains what they said. We talk about the Satan, the Balach HaMoves. It says, Nosan Einu B'Mikdash Rishon. He destroyed the first base of Migdash, destroyed the second base of Migdash. Seems like it's terrible, the Satan, doing such terrible things. But sometimes it says that they did L'Shem Shomayim when they tried to persuade to do bad, the Satan and the Penina who was teasing Hannah, they wanted them to daven stronger. They didn't want them to. They wanted. So how does it fit together with Nos and Ein of B'Mikdash? So he says Achshnei Memes, but they're both true. Kishoyresh hascholas hasigim v'aklipos ein ragomor. The beginning of the sigim, the klipos, is not totally evil. They start off with the idea of the Shem Shomayim. But then what it involves, below, nas sigim koshim yosef, they become actually hard sigim, difficult, and criticize the mamish. So at the higher level, Satan, the Penina, the Shem Shemaim, Niskavnu, but when they come down to the lower level, then they're actually destroying the Beis HaMikdash, and then they're actually mekatrigim. Omar, what did the Satan say? He also gave down Achina Yore Eiv Chulu. He was criticizing Eiv, that Eiv was a fearful of Hashem. He says, well, you gave Eiv everything that he needs, so he fears Hashem. Try taking away, and you'll see how much he loves you. And that's what happened with the Satan taking away. So you see that it becomes makatri gimamish. They become mamish. So he says, this is the way, similar to this is the creation of the 7 nations, which are Ulu, the Zayin Midas de Toyu. So the 7 Midas of Toyu, basically above there on a higher level, but when they come down below, just like by Abraham, he gave the Moshe, just like by the Satan and the Penina Shem Shemayim, at a higher level, they're not the Ra, but when they come down, they become the 7 nations, the Kanani, Chiti, Zayim, Midas. Achinyan Midya, who Mashikosu Besifra Tzniusa, that's in the Zoyar, Parshas Truma, Kufa Imvov, Omid Beis. So it says, Ad Loi Havo Betaklo, until they didn't stumble, until Midyan, Loi Have Mashgichin Apin Be'apin. They weren't face to face. In other words, the Klippas were not face to face. He's going to explain. Because it was in a way they were higher than the other one. They were back to back. He's going to explain. This piece of Zohar is going to be explained now. This is the level of Toyu. Because what is Toyu? One below. The way the spheres are in Toyu, it's one on top of the other. So there is higher and lower. It's called the Reshus HaRabim. It's a public domain. In the level of Tikkun, over there they're lined up. They're lines, equal lines. As he's going to explain. That means, he says that this is the words of the Sifra Tzniusa, which is going to explain what does it mean, Lo Yehoyu Mashgichin, Apim Ba'apim Shoyoch Ba'ocher, and level Tachas Erush Rab. Then he quotes also, Shoyna Pirush V'Talmud Harizal Shah. He explains over there, the student explains, what it means to say, in the world of Toyu, the six corners represent the 6 midos. Mishtalshlus zu al-gab zu. They evolved one on top of the other. Being Cain, and therefore, lo yehoyu mashgichin ha-keser ponim beponim im ha-tiferes. So there was the keser did not face the Tiferes because Keser was higher and Tiferes was lower. Why? Because in between Keser and Tiferes there was a gap between Chesed and Gevura. That's one thing. Gam Chesed u'Gevura ba'atzmam lohoyu ponim v'ponim. Also, Chesed Gevura himself were ponim ponim. Mashen gibel matikun ad kan l'shen, as opposed to matikun. What is the Ritzayin l'leima? As what does it mean? Abu b'il matikun. That in the world of Tikkun, Chesed u'Gevura heim bechinas ponim beponim. That Chesed Gevura ponim ponim. V'gam Keser im hatiferes. Keser with Tiferes, which is the Hainu Atiko im Zo. That would be the Atik together with Zo, this is the Keser. And Bechinas Ponim Beponim, they are on the level of Ponim Ponim. So Keser with Tiferes, Chesed with Gevura, they're all together. Behind Bezoyer Rekia Parshas Breishis Dabeis Omed Beis Gabe Aolas Ois Tzadik Chulu and Poi the Yud Mahadel Achir Chulu Ein Shamdi. The face of the Yud turned backwards. Tzadik, the shape of the Tzadik. Explains over there. So, what does it mean? Pirush who? What is the meaning? Rebbe explains now. Shaloi Hoyo Shaychus L'Chesed Im Gevura. That there was no connection between Chesed and Gevura. Shachesed Hoyo Chesed Shebechesed. Chesed was Chesed within Chesed. V'Gevura Hoyo Gevura Shebegevura. So it was Chesed of Chesed and Gevura Gevura. V'Kivon Shezeh Chesed Poshut. This is simply Chesed, only Chesed. V'Zeh Gevura Pshuta. And this is simply Gevura, only Gevura. There's no combination. Therefore, Harehem Beis Hofchim. So that's why they're two opposites. It's Kamayim Be'esh. It's like water and fire. Shelo Yuchal Yischaber L'Zdavik Yachad. You can't connect them and fuse them together. The loy, this means the loy have a mashgich and apim ba'apim v'zahu, and this is what it means that it says in the Zohar quoted before in the Sifra Tzniusa that they were not face to face. V'hatikun huliyus biskalus. What is tikun? Tikun makes inclusion. V'hainu, and that takes place in ma. the Shem Havaya, the letter Mamhei of the combination, that is fixes and brings about these colors. Kashvido b'bchinas ban. The Shvira is in level of ban oilam hanikudim. That's the world of nikudim. Nikudim means separate points. V'haskalalus o hayidei hamshochas hamoichim b'midas. Skalalus comes through bringing down moichin and midas. V'hainu b'bchinas chochma koyachma. To bring down the level of chochma of koyachma. He says that the midos, a person's emotions, are either one or the other, either angry or kind. But when you bring in the seichel there, then there's a tolerance. The shvira was because they were separate. But when there's amshochas hamoichin, that's the way that comes from ma, which is the level of chokhmah, to bring down that they should be able to be hiskalus and tolerant. Look, we can look from our flesh, we can see godliness, says the Pasuk in here. When the emotions by their person, when they're not led by the intellect, Azai kol mida ein lo kisha v'chaber klal im zuloso. So there is no connection between any of the emotion between the other one. Kimay, for example, kasher yichos v'yiksof, when it gets angry, ein le rachmim v'chesed b'shozu klal amishakoyiselo. So at that point, he has no compassion, he has no kindness at that time on the one who's angry. And the same thing as the other hand, that if he has compassion and kindness, he doesn't have any anger. So it turns out that that the emotions of chesed and gevura are separated one from the other. And therefore, so therefore, it can branch out from that leftover din a very difficult judgment. But when you dress up chokhmah in midas, so then the emotions will be led based on what the intellect says. The yichbesh kaisoy, and then he will hold back his anger. Li is by gamkein taruves chesed v'rachmim. So there should be the mixture. This is the moshul for lemaila when you mamshich the level of chokhmah, which allows for the opposite midos to be together. And this is what our sages tell us. It should be soft, like a stick, which can move it, not to be hard like a cedar. And the Gemara relates this, the Gemara in Tainus over there. The Gemara relates there over there that because of being hard, it didn't work out. But I knew, how do you accomplish that? When you have the mind dominate, control the heart. So how does Tikkun help it? So he says two things what Tikkun does. First of all, it makes inclusion so that the two opposites can be together. It also makes a lot of kelim so that you can accept it, the various different combinations. In a Tikkun and Beis Yonim, there's two levels in the Tikkun. Aleph, number one, liyos is kalus chesed begvura, gvura b'chesed. To bring inclusion that chesed should be from gvura, gvura b'chesed. Ritzoyne leimer, Shelo yir a chesed rak b'chinas echad. Chesed should not be just one emotion, which is hainu chesed poshut, just a simple chesed. Hanikra chesed shema chesed, we call chesed chesed. V'chein ha'gevura, like was gevura, lo yiyeh rak b'chinas achas. Should not be just one level. Hainu gevura should be gevura. That was the meaning when it says the world of Nikudim, a world of points. They were all one point. It was all Chesed, all Gevura. There was no combinations. It's just one essence, Chesed v'Gevura. But rather, what should happen? But we want the chesed itself should be included of the 6 midos. Chesed should have chagas nehi. Chesed would fence chusay. V'chein ha'gevura tiyaklulo mikol avav k'tzavos, from all the 6 corners. Or kol echad yiyeh kol m'shiva midos. Here he's talking about just chesed, gvura, tiferet, and maybe malchus also. It's a different place. I'm Mashay. Because of the common bebiur aposik elo maseh. So over there it says, shalefomim, sometimes it's kalus mishisha, sometimes it's included with 6, upamim mishiva, sometimes 7, upamim kol echad kolu me'eser suda, sometimes each one is included of 10. But lochein al yidei zeh, going back what the Zohar says, yuchaliyos mashgichim ponim b'ponim. Now they can face to face. Ka chesed shebegevura, or gevura shebechesed. The chesed which is in gevura, and the gevura which is in the chesed, kroivim liyeshovim. They are almost equal because this is chesed. It's a gevura. The other one is gevura, but it's still in chesed. So you still have a relationship. They can be close. V'al yidei zeh, and through this, that way you can bring together, to connect, and to bring together the chesed with the gevura. And this is the idea of tikkun shebebchinas hakelim. So this is the first idea, is the tikkun is in the kelim. How do we fix the kelim? We make better kelim. We make kelim that are combined. That is by drawing down the moichin, kinal b'moshel, as we said before in the moshel, that through the revelation and through bringing down chokhmah and midas, nase iskalus hamidas shem hakelim. So that brings about the iskalus of the midas, which are the kelim. So that's one. The second level, is in the lights. That the oir, the improvement is in the light. Because there's a lot of kelim, it holds on better to the oil. It was because there was not enough vessels, few vessels. They could not tolerate the light. But when you have a lot of kelim, I said earlier, they his kalus, through the level of his kalus, so there's an increase in the kelim. So first, the way it was until you was only a point. And in Tikkun it was increased, it became bigger and increased. to be included from 10 levels. That's how they can hold the light better. The main tikkun is through the lights. Through the fact that there's so much light because there's kelim, so they can connect and include through their so much light. Not only can they increase, they can actually change places, which means you have Eira Chesed b'Kli Gvura, the light of Chesed b'Kli Gvura, and that is also, that's another function from the tikkun from the Eiros. You know what? Let's leave it over here. Okay, tomorrow no Chassidus because we're going to